So here three diagrams are here which gives the information about the refraction by lens. See, this is a convex lens, placed one object at O, it gives an angle of incidence something, and with respect to the aperture of the lens, it is refracting and forms an image. This is the actual mechanism which really happens in the lenses. But if you see the clear picture of how this image will form, see the first curve, means we are converting or we are dividing the lens into two curved surfaces. Means two curved surfaces equations will come, we should add that, we will get the desired equation. So take the first portion, this curved surface, front one. So like this, O is the position of object. So let us take a point B which is close to the curve. This B is similar to the pole of the curve. Then angle of incidence is making I1, and because of the refraction it creates the image I1. So this creates the image I1, acts as a virtual object for the curved surface second. This I1 is the image due to this object which acts as a virtual object for the next curved surface C1. So C1 will become the object. So now this is the another end of the curve, and this another end of the curve, this I1 is the object, then it creates the image I with respect to the center of curvature C2. So this lens has two centers of curvature C1 and C2. This is the actual mechanism actually happening in the refraction by lenses. So what are the equation parts we can see? So for the first part of the lens, you can write N2 by V minus N1 by U is equal to N2 minus N1 by R. So like this, N1 by OB plus N2 by BI1 is equal to N2 minus N1 by BC1. This is equation 1. If you go to the second part of the lens, the equation will give like this: minus N1 by DI1 plus minus N2 by DI1 plus N1 by DI is equal to N2 minus N1 by DC2. This is equation 2. And we know that BI1 is equal to DI1, and these two will be get cancelled out. Therefore, we will get N1 by OB plus N1 by DI is equal to N2 minus N1 into 1 by BC1 plus 1 by DC2. So we know that BI1 is equal to DI1. That's why if you adding the 1 plus 2 equations, we will get the form like this: N1 by OB plus N1 by DI is equal to N2 minus N1 into 1 by BC1 plus 1 by DC2. So we are adding the equation 1 and equation 2. Suppose, what is OB? Distance of the object. What is DI? Distance of the image. So what we can write? If OB is tending to infinity, means object is placed at infinity, image will form at focal length. We know this one as a ray diagram rules in the lenses. Therefore, N1 by infinity plus N1 by F is equal to N2 minus N1 into 1 by, what is BC1 plus R1? What is DC2 minus R2? So this N1 by infinity will become 0. So therefore N1 by F is equal to N2 minus N1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. Now we should simplify this equation. So we got N1 by F is equal to N2 minus N1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. So I am bringing n1 to their side. So 1 by f is equal to n2 minus n1 whole divided by n1 into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2. This will become n2 by n1 minus 1. n2 by n1 is nothing but n21. 1 by f is equal to n21 minus 1 into 1 by r1 minus 1 by r2. This is one of the expression, and this expression is called Lensmaker's formula. But we can simplify this Lensmaker's formula by in another way. So we will get 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f. So how we are getting this, we will see now. So we got two equations, n1 by OB plus n1 by di is equal to n2 minus n1 into 1 by bc1 plus 1 by dc2. This is one equation. And in the last we got n1 by f is equal to n2 minus n1 into 1 by bc1 plus 1 by dc2. RHS of these two equations are equal, so I am equating the LHS. Therefore, n1 by OB plus n1 by di is equal to n1 by f. So n1 is common, so therefore 1 by OB plus 1 by di is equal to 1 by f. So what if you see the diagrams, OB is equal to object distance, nothing but minus u. Di is image distance, nothing but plus v. So if I substitute these values, this will become 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f. This is a short form of Lensmaker's formula or modified Lensmaker's formula. Now we will see how the image will form in the lenses, what are the ray diagrams and magnification. The Lensmaker's formula 1 by v minus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f is valid for all lenses. Maybe it is real image or virtual image, whether it is convex lens or concave lens. Now we will see how the image will form. A lens has two centers of curvature and two focus. f1, this is f2. In some of the textbook it is written as f and f dash, no problem. It's our wish to identify which is first focal length and second focal length. So how the image will form, there are some rules for the image formation in the lenses. So take a convex lens, draw the optical center, this is the aperture of the lens. So not like this one, so it's a straight one. This is one of the object. Now we placed an object here. So first rule, if the light rays are parallel to the optic axis, after the refraction it aligns or passes through the f2. So this is the object, this is f1, this is f2. The line which joins this f1 and f2 and c1 to c2 is said to be optic axis or principal axis of the lens. So light rays parallel to the principal axis of the lens. These light rays are called paraxial rays. Once the light rays are paraxial, after the refraction it passes through f2. This is first rule. Second one, if light rays are passes through the optic axis or optical center of the lens, then it is undeviated. So we will try to continue this. So like this. It is undeviated. Like center of curvature in the mirror, if light ray passes through the center of curvature, it is pakka undeviated and passes through C, penetrates through C. Like this, here also optical center behaves the same. And the third one, if light ray passes through F1, after the refraction, it aligns parallel to the principal axis. So here a image will form. So three rules: paraxial ray passes through optical center, passes through F1. Paraxial ray passes through F2 after refraction. The light ray which is passing through the optical center undeviated. The light ray which is passing through the first focus after the refraction, it aligns parallel to the principal axis or optic axis. Those three rays will merge together and it will create an image beyond C, or okay, like that. But always we will get in convex lens we will get the images real and inverted. But in case of so convex lens we will get a virtual and erect images. So if you want to see the magnification in the lenses, M is equal to H dash by H is equal to V by U. Here minus is we are eliminating. So why we are eliminating the minus? Object is in the positive scale, this one is in the negative scale, but V is in the positive scale and U is also in the negative scale. So we will get minus H dash by H is equal to plus V by minus U. So minus and minus get cancelled out, that's why we are getting H dash by H is equal to plus V by U. So this is the formula for the magnification. Let us see one problem which relates to the 1 by F is equal to 1 by V minus 1 by U, or refractive index of the spherical lenses. A magician during a show makes a glass lens with N is equal to 1.47. Means refractive index of the glass lens is 1.47, but it disappeared in a trough of a liquid. What is the refractive index of the liquid? Could be the liquid is water or not. This is the textbook exercise problem. So if you see the question, a magician during a show, he makes a glass lens with refractive index is equal to 1.47. And this one is disappeared in a trough of liquid. Means this glass lens which is refractive index of this much is disappeared when it is in a liquid, because of the trough of the liquid. So what is the refractive index of the liquid? See, whenever the liquid refractive index is same equal to this much, then these two will merge each other, then this glass lens won't be disappear, will be disappear. That means if a liquid's refractive index is 1.3, let us suppose 1.33 actually. What is the refractive index of the plain glass slate? This glass lens 1.47. Means this glass lens refractive index is more than the water. That means glass lens is up here. So continue. So if refractive index of the glass lens is greater than liquid, then glass will appear, because refractive index difference is there. Whenever the liquid's refractive index is 1.47, then only this whole arrangement, means the glass plus liquid, acts like a plane sheet. That means glass won't be appear. That means what is the refractive index of the liquid? Means the refractive index of the liquid is 1.47. For what? For the disappearance of glass. So could be the liquid is water? No. Water's refractive index is less than this one. So we are choosing a liquid which has the refractive index close to the glass lens. So we will go to the materials which has the refractive index this much, that is glycerin. It is a glycerin type liquid. So whenever the two media have the same refractive index, it is very difficult to distinguish. If they have different refractive indices, it is easy to distinguish. So this is the concept of the problem. Next, the concept we are watching is power of lens. So what is the meaning of power of lens? Yes, we have two lenses, convex, another one is concave. So this is concave lens. Convex lens gives the convergence image, converged, and concave will give diverged. Both the cases are exactly reciprocals to the mirrors cases. So what is the meaning of power of lens? The ability to converge the light rays or diverge the light rays. To how much extent the light rays can be converged by a lens, or to how much extent the light rays can be diverged by a lens, is called power of the lens. The ability of converging or diverging the light rays. By a lens is called its power. So how can we determine the equation for the power of the lens? Let us take a convex lens, so which has the optical center. So this is the aperture of the lens, and this is the light ray which is incident parallel to the optical center. It is converging after the refraction, means the light rays will bend like this and it is converging at this point. Let us take from optical center to here, the distance is 1 unit or unit distance, and this is equal to, this one is equal to the height of the object. So actual path of the light should be like this. That means it is making an angle some delta, and same here also delta. So we draw a tangent. We draw a tangent towards the optic axis at the point of converging, and this point is at some distance from the optical center. Let us take this one as F. So power of lens is equal to tan delta. So what is tan delta? H by F. If H is equal to 1 unit or 1 meter or 1 unit, then mere P will become 1 by F. So power of a lens is reciprocal of its focal length. So power of lens is inversely proportional to focal length. So what is the actual definition of the power of the lens? We know that power of the lens is equal to 1 by F. So what is the definition? The tangent of the line which is converging or diverging at a point on principal axis, and this point which is at a distance of unit, which is at unit distance. So if this is the lens, this is the aperture, this is the optical center, this is the paraxial ray, and it is converging like this. So this is, so the tangent of the point line which makes converging or diverging, which is at a unit distance from the optical center. So from the definition we says that P is equal to 1 by F. So what is the SI unit of power? 1 diopter. Of power of lens is equal to 1 capital D. So what is this capital D? Diopter. So 1 diopter is equal to 1 by centimeter if focal length is in centimeters. So 1 diopter is equal to inverse of the focal length. And this power is positive for the converging lens, negative for the diverging lens. So P is positive for converging lens and P is negative for diverging lens. Now we'll see one problem with respect to the focal length and power of the lens. So see the first bit, if focal length f is equal to 0.5 meters for a glass lens, what is the power of the lens? And the radii of curvature of the faces of a double convex lens are 10 centimeter and 15 centimeters. Its focal length is 12 centimeters. What is the refractive index of the glass? These two are the two different problems. So first we will solve the first one. Focal length f is equal to 0.5 meters. So what is the power? 1 by f. Therefore 1 by 0.5. So we can write this one as 10 by 5. So plus 2 diopter is a converging lens. So double convex. So see the second question or second bit of the problem. The radii of curvature of the faces of a double convex lens are 10 centimeters and 15 centimeters. R1 is equal to plus 10 centimeters, comma R2 is equal to minus 15 centimeters. Its focal length is 12 centimeters. So therefore, F is equal to plus 12 centimeters. So then what is the refractive index of the glass? So the formula is 1 by F is equal to n minus 1 into 1 by R1 minus 1 by R2. What is F? 1 by 12 is equal to n minus 1 into, what is R1? 1 by minus 10 minus 1 by, or 1 by R1 is plus 10, 1 by, what is R2? Minus 15. So n minus 1 into, this will become 1 by 10 plus 1 by 15. Is equal to 1 by 12. To see the answer, it will be like this. 1 by 12 is equal to n minus 1 into, what is the LCM of 10 and 15? 30. 3 plus 2. So 1 by 12 is equal to n minus 1 into 5 by 30. Therefore, n minus 1 is equal to 1 by 12 into 30 by 5. 530, 6 times. So 6, 12, 2 times. N minus 1 is equal to 1 by 2. N is equal to 3 by 2. So the refractive index is 3 by 2, nothing but the 1.5. Now we will see the power of the combination of lenses. For one lens, we have got the power P is equal to 1 by F. So what will be the combination of power of the lenses? So let us suppose there are two convex lenses which are joined like this. So one optical center is common and passing through that. This is the object. and the image will form, and this image will become the virtual object for the second lens. So this is the object. Let us say this is lens A, lens B. So at the aperture, it is forming the image like this. But here, it creates a virtual image also. Focal length. So this combination of lenses will create the image first, and this image will become the virtual object for the second lens. Like that, this process will be continued. So for the first case, OA to I. So in this case of this OAI for lens A, O is the position of object, A is the lens, I is the position of image. So in this case, the formula for the lens is 1 by V1 minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F1, where U is the position of object, this is the V1. So for lens B, this will become 1 by V minus 1 by V1, because here the object is V1 for the lens B. This will become 1 by F2. It has the focal length F1, it has the focal length F2. So this is equation 1, this is equation 2. So I am doing 1 plus 2. So if you see the LHS, 1 by V1 minus 1 by U plus 1 by V minus 1 by V1. This minus 1 by V1 plus V1, 1 by V1 get cancelled, and you will get 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2. We know that 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. So combination of lenses, the power of the combination of lenses, effective lens combination of lenses, effective power is equal to 1 by F is equal to 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2. That means the effective reciprocal of the focal length of effective power of lenses is equal to sum of the reciprocals of the focal lengths of each and individual lens. For n lenses, you can write 1 by F is equal to 1 by F1 plus 1 by F2 and so on 1 by Fn. So in this case, 1 by F is power, therefore power is equal to P1 plus P2 and so on Pn. As the power goes on increasing, there is a possibility for the enhancement in the size of image. So that's why magnification multiplies. So powers are added, magnification is multiplicative. Now we will see refraction through prism. Mostly prism will be in a triangular shape. On any side it seems to be a triangle, which is made up of a transparent glass medium. So one end is a rough surface, all the remaining surfaces are polished. So on any face, if you try to expose a light ray with some angle of incidence, because of its dense nature, light undergoes refraction through it. So angle of incident, angle of refraction, angle of deviation, angle of emergence. So all are possible when a light ray is passing through a prism. So such like that we can find out the refractive index of the prism in this experiment. For that purpose, we took a prism called ABC, which is in a shape of a triangle. Let us expose a light ray with some angle of incidence. It goes refraction like this, and again from here it goes emergent. So in this case we will try to draw the normals. So this will expose like this. What is the need of these normals? We will try to find like this. So for this purpose, we should draw the normals, and I am extending this line like this, and this line is also like this. This incident ray with respect to normal, it makes an angle called I1 or I. This is the emergent ray. This emergent ray is also making an angle with respect to the normal called E, because it is angle of emergence. And here some refraction takes place, R1 and R2. So these are all the deviations, delta and delta. And ABC is the triangle. This P and this is M. PQ is the quadrilateral. So PQNR is the quadrilateral. So in this case, we will say that AQNR is a quadrilateral. This QNR makes an angle 180 degrees. But angle AQNR is nothing but angle A plus PQR. So such like that we will write. So this is QNR. So quadrilateral. This is some R. AQNR, the total angle is 180 degrees. So in this case, there is a prism angle, angle A, and QNR, triangle QNR, which gives 180 degrees, because these are all the deviated lines. The deviated angles also we should represent, because this AQR is a triangle seems to be, but this QR will become QNR, where N is the deviated angle and this deviation is represented by the top. So in this case, what we can understand is angle A plus angle QNR is equal to 180 degrees. Angle A is the exterior angle. The sum of the interior angles is equal to exterior angle. So we can write angle A is equal to R1 plus R2. This R1 and R2 are the angle of refractions. On both the ends. Next, what we can see is, we know that angle of deviation is equal to I minus R. But what are the total angles here? I plus E minus R1 plus R2. So therefore, angle of deviation delta is equal to I plus E minus R1 plus R2. We know this. So what we can understand in this case is I minus R1 plus E minus R2. So I plus E minus of R1 plus R2. This is the delta 1 plus this is delta 2. This is called delta 1 and this is called delta 2. So delta is equal to delta 1 plus delta 2. We got the equation I plus E minus of R1 plus R2. So in this case, what we are going to find out is, we know that angle of refraction in the both ends, here and here, will be same. So we can write R1 is equal to R2 is equal to R. Therefore 2R is equal to A. So in equation 1, R1 is equal to R2 is equal to R. Therefore equation 1 becomes 2R is equal to A. Therefore R is equal to A by 2. So like this, what we can write? I plus E. What is this I plus E? I and E both are same. So we can write this one as 2I minus A is equal to delta. Therefore delta R dm, angle of minimum deviation, is equal to 2I minus A. From this we can find out the I also. Then we are going to substitute in the formula sin I by sin R. So we got 2R is equal to A and R is equal to A by 2, and such like that angle of minimum deviation is equal to 2I minus A. Therefore 2I is equal to A plus dm. Therefore I is equal to a plus dm whole divided by 2. So angle A plus QNR is equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, angle AQNR is a quadrilateral. So in this quadrilateral, we write angle A plus QNR is equal to 180 degrees. From there, we got these values. So angle of deviations and angle of emergence and incidence all are playing the key role to find out the angle of the prism. So in this case, refractive index is equal to sin I by sin R. So we have I value, we have R value, we are going to substitute. For n is equal to n of the prism, we can write. Refractive index of the prism is equal to sin of, what is I? A plus dm by 2 whole divided by sin R. What is R? A by 2. Where dm is the angle of minimum deviation. So what is the meaning of minimum deviation? For such an angle of deviation, a small rotation of the prism, the order of the spectrum will be reversed on the screen. So it will be a minimum value. So we should not lead to the rotation in fast. So slowly if you move the prism by small variations of the angle, then you can see the reverse order of the spectrum on the screen. So for that angle is called angle of minimum deviation. It depends upon the thickness of the prism also. So this is the information about the angle of the prism and refractive index of the prism. Now we will see the plot between angle of deviation and angle of incidence. And angle of incidence. So for that purpose, we should take a coordinate axis, just a rough sketch of the graph like this. So here angle of deviation, so on y axis we are taking angle of deviation, this is angle of incidence. So it is 0, 20 degrees, 40, 60, 80. Now here also we can take some 20, 40, 60, 80. So we can write this one as this is also 80. Forty, 60, 80. This is delta angle of deviation. So what we can understand from this graph, you will get a graph structure like this. But what is the physical significance of the graph? Where this intersects both, then you will get I is equal to E. Like this. So where this peak observes, from this peak onwards it goes up and it goes down. So this peak point is called angle of incidence is equal to angle of emergence. Like this we can find out the refractive index of the prism and plotting the graph. Next concept is dispersion by prism. Yeah, we know that prism is in a triangular shape. So what is the meaning of dispersion? whenever the scientists discovered this concept of dispersion, they felt really wonderful. They found a new concept, and it's a new idea, something wonderful. So what is this a dispersion concept? Yes, there is a white light. White light means which is visible for our human eye. Visible light incident on a prism surface at any angle of incidence, then this white light is going to separate into 7 different colors. And it will be continued to form on the screen. So initially it is a white light, a single beam of ray. Whenever it is passing through an obstacle of its path, like a prism of a dense made up of a denser medium, this white light, which is a single beam, splits into 7 different colors. So the separation of 7 different colors, or the separation of a white light into its constituent 7 colors, is called dispersion. The separation of a white light into its constituent colors. Constituent colors is nothing but violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red, VIBGYOR. 7 different colors, which are 7 different wavelengths. So this VIBGYOR means these 7 colors are collectively called as white light. So we can say that in air medium, these 7 colors seems to be traveling with the same speed. That's why it is appeared to be a single beam of white light. But in denser medium like glass, the velocities of these 7 colors are separated, are different. It is not unity. That's why we can distinguish the 7 different colors. Like 7 people who are in a 7 athletes running in a participating in an athletic race. If they are moving with the same velocity, it is very difficult to distinguish their positions. But if they are simply following one and each other, one person is forward and second person is next to him, then we can observe that one person is moving fast, he may come first, like that. So such like that, the same concept you can apply here. So in the air medium, all 7 colors are moving with the same velocity, but in the denser medium, the 7 colors are exhibiting 7 different velocities because of the denser. So red color bends the least and violet color bends the most. We know this. So in air, these 7 colors are moving the same velocity. That velocity is called group velocity. Whenever it collides with the obstacle medium, they are going to the different phases. The velocity inside the denser medium is called phase velocity. So this concept well derived in MSc Physics and MSc Electronics, and the relationship between these two are also derived in future. So what we can say that this is the simple example of the VIBGYOR and dispersion. Mr. Newton thinks that what is the reason for this separation? Is there any force is applying on this to do the separation, or yes, prism can itself create the spectrum or not? So but for this purpose, what he did is, this is the prism, light splits into 7 colors, and he placed one more prism in the reversed order for this path. So it was united to form a single beam. So these are the 2 prisms which are inverted to each other, relatively inverted to each other. Then first prism separates the 7 colors, and the second prism unites the 7 colors. That means what we can understand in this concept is prism is not able to produce the spectrum. So it is the creation because of the change in the speed of light when compared to the air medium to denser medium. So this concept leads the Vibgyor formation. The order of the colors what we will get after the dispersion is called spectrum. Now we will see some natural phenomenon due to sunlight. The first natural phenomena what we can observe due to sunlight is rainbow. Yeah, we know that rainbow, 7 colors which are visible in the sky. So to form the rainbow there are some conditions are required. What are the conditions required to form the rainbow? Yeah, the first effect we can see due to sunlight is rainbow. We know that this rainbow, order of the 7 colors. The main conditions required to form a rainbow is one end should be clear, means one end of the sky should be clear, another end should be rain. So clear sky at the one part and rainy sky at the another part. In these conditions only this rainbow will form, because this clear sky releases the sunlight, rainy sky full of water droplets. So when the sunlight travels through the water droplets, there is a combinational effect, a combined effect of dispersion plus refraction plus reflection, nothing but total internal reflection. There is a combinational effect of these 3 phenomena of light, then you can see the Vibgyor. So how it will form? For that purpose, let us draw a spherical water droplet, which is a rainy drop. A sunlight enters like this. At some angle of incidence. The sunlight, this is a spherical water surface which is a denser media. Whenever a sunlight travels from air to denser, it refracts, as well as because of its prism nature, so there's light colors will deviate into 7 different colors. So what we can observe is one color will refract like this and another color will refract like this. Mostly red color and violet color we will see now. Violet to red is the order of the spectrum. So what we can understand is, because of this angle of incidence, dispersion takes place inside the water droplet. Whenever the dispersion takes place, these light rays, whenever the angle of incidence crosses the critical angle, then the light will be appeared as then this water droplet appear as a single color. Why? When critical angle, the light ray undergoes the total internal reflection. That means one particular wavelength internally reflects throughout the water droplet. Like that, one water droplet with red color, one water droplet with violet color, one droplet with yellow color, it forms like this. So these order of water droplets appeared as a band of colors. So red, violet. After that, this violet color again coming out of the water droplet like this. So red color, okay, because of the dispersion, while it is coming out again, refracts. If the angle is more than critical angle, then the full water droplet appears to be as a single color. So there is angle of deviation for the colors. For violet, it is 40 degrees. So for violet, it bends at 40 degrees. For red, it bends at 42 degrees. So like that, dispersion, refraction, total internal reflection takes place. Because of that, this rainbow will be appeared for the human beings. The next important phenomenon due to sunlight is scattering. Scattering is nothing but change in the path of light. So change in the path of light, and that should be a particular wavelength is traveled to the particular distance. So what is this scattering? Yes, suppose sun so like this, at the time of sunset and sunrise, the sky appears to be reddish. Reddish sky. Middle of the sunrise and sunset, bluish sky. Middle day. Middle bluish. Means whenever the sunrise and sunset, only red color is appeared, all the remaining 6 colors are not appeared. Means they are removed by the scattering. Why? We are going to discuss. In the middle day, means middle of the sunrise and sunset, only blue color is appeared. All the remaining 6 colors before the blue, after the blue are removed in the scattering. So what is the reason behind this scattering? So there is a law called Rayleigh scattering. One of the scientists what is the law of this Rayleigh scattering? The statement is the scattering is inversely proportional to 4th power of its wavelength. Means scattering of a color, change in the path of a color or a wavelength is inversely proportional to 4th power of its wavelength. That means if you see the visible spectrum, highest wavelength is for red. Red color has highest wavelength, that's why red colors has lowest scattering. So that's why it is visible in the sunrise and sunset time. So which is the lowest wavelength? Red highest wavelength. So lowest wavelength is violet, least wavelength. Because of its least wavelength, if lambda is least, scattering should be more, but we are unable to recognize the scattering of the violet color. Only blue color is appeared. What is the reason? The only one reason is our eyes are not sensitive to identify the violet color. That's why violet and indigo we are unable to sensitive. So that's why violet next to the violet, next to the indigo, which color is visible? Blue. That's why the remaining whole time sky appeared to be blue. Not sensitive. To observe the violet color. So our eyes are not sensitive to observe the violet color, that's why blue color is visible for the most time. But there are some particles in the atmosphere. Why this scattering will occur? Because of the scatterers. Scatterers may be water droplets, maybe dust particles, many other reasons. Suppose if these water droplets are there, the scatterer's size is said to be A. If scatterer's size is much less than the size of wavelength, then this type of scattering will occur. But if scatterer size is much more than the wavelength, then those objects will appear in white, means no scattering will take place. That's why the size of the clouds are more than the size of the wavelength. That's why clouds are appeared white. such like this, we can understand the concept of scattering, the explained by Rayleigh, and this law is also called Rayleigh-Jeans law of scattering, which is universally proportional to the fourth power of lambda. The concept we are seeing now is optical instruments. So what is the meaning of optical instruments? The instruments which can respond for the propagation of light, and whenever some light is incident on these instruments, they used to reflect or refract or polarize the light. Means any phenomenon of light should be possible when light possibly falls on these type of instruments. So in the world we have many optical instruments: kaleidoscope, binoculars, traveling microscope, so next telescope. Many are there. All lenses, crystalline lenses, contact lenses, the camera lenses, all these are optical instruments. But in our syllabus, we are going to discuss about human eye. This is the best optical instrument. So it's a God made, we know that. Next, telescope. Next, microscope. So whatever may be the order, so these are the three major optical instruments, the designing and the functioning of optical instruments in these our syllabus. So human eye is the most important essential part in our life. Without eye it is very difficult to observe the world. So what are the functioning of the human eye and how the eye defects are taken place and their remedials. Next, uses of microscope and uses of telescope with respect to the magnification and angular and linear. So these three we are going to discuss in terms of optical instruments. Yeah, now we will see the human eye and the different parts in the human eye. So seems to be the block diagram of the human eye is like this. So whenever you are watching any object, the light ray from that object first touches this curved part, the curved front portion of the human eye. This one, where my finger is there, this one, the curved front portion of the human eye. This curved front portion of the human eye is called cornea. It seems to be the inner edge, the first top edge of the convex lens, such like this. So which is used to converge the light ray. So just behind the cornea, which is the topmost outward curve, some aqueous humor is there. When we are getting emotional, so the droplets will come out, maybe like in a form of tears. So that is nothing but aqueous humor. This humor water droplets which can easily bend the light again. So the light which is bending or not bending, it should pass through this pupil. This one is actually pupil, and this is the crystalline lens, this part. The central part of the crystalline lens is pupil. This one, this oval shaped one is a crystalline lens. The central part of the crystalline lens is called pupil. Pupil don't have any cones and rods to absorb the light. That's why the light can pass through it without any reflection or refraction. That's why the pupil appear to be dark. If there are cones and rods, maybe of the any angle, then it may absorb the light. This absorption may be visible in a form of color. So light incident on this curved surface touches the aqueous humor. Because of this, the diversion or the convergence, it could pass through the crystalline lens. Crystalline lens has different spots. The best spot of the crystalline lens is central spot called as pupil. So through the pupil, light will pass. That spot will be appeared as dark. Then this crystalline lens is connected to ciliary muscles. So what is this ciliary muscles or ciliary muscles? These muscles can give the power of accommodation. So what is the meaning of power of accommodation? Suppose this is the object. If I place this object near to the eye, then I may not be able to converge the whole light which is in front of the eye. Because of what, whenever these type of objects may be of the small size or large size placed in front of the eye, the ability of the focal length is decreases. Why? What is the reason? Eye gets strain. So because to avoid the most strain, the size of the eye lens decreases. Means its focal length is decreasing. Whenever this object is moving friend, moving at some distance, at some distance I can able to accommodate the all light rays which are coming out of the object, then I can able to see this object clearly. Whenever this object is moving away from the eye lens, the size of the eye lens increases. When it is placed in front of the eye lens decreases. Moving away from the eye, at one point eye lens relaxes. So the focal length of the eye lens is compressing and expanding with respect to the position of object in front of the eye. This is called power of accommodation. So these muscles will compress the eye lens or expand the eye lens with respect to the position of object. Power of accommodation. So what is the meaning of power of accommodation? The ability to decrease or increase the focal length of the eye lens. With respect to the position of object in front of eye. Is called power of accommodation. Then the ciliary muscles which are connected to the retina. Retina acts like a screen. Means it has cones and rods. Retina is like a screen. Contains cones and rods which are shaped perpendicularly like a metal grill. Then which absorbs the light, which can able to identify the color of the light source also, means color of the object. And this retina is connected to the optic nerve which converts this optic nerve is connected to the brain. What is the work of this optic nerve? Which converts the signal light rays into electromagnetic waves for the sensation of brain. This optic nerve is connected to brain. So this whole thing will done in fraction of seconds. That's why we are able to identify the object clearly. So this is a small information about the different parts which are included in the human eye and the functioning of the human eye. But there are some defects of the human eye. Means there is a defects of vision, long sightedness, short sightedness, color blindness. So we are going to discuss all those things. So there are some factors in the human eye. So we should know the first one is least distance of distinct vision. So what is the least distance of distinct vision? Suppose if I place two objects in front of my eye, I want to distinguish them. If I place those two objects in front of my eye, I may not. So if the object both are moving like this and moving in front of my eye, at one particular distance, I may distinguish between the two objects. Means I can say the differences. Means I can able to see the object clearly. So at what particular least distance an observer can able to see the object clearly without any deformations? The distance is called least distance of distinct vision. The minimum distance of an object in front of eye to see clearly is called least distance of distinct vision. In scientific words, it is derived by capital D. So for a healthy man at a particular young age, this D is 25 centimeters. But this D value is going to change with age. For small kids, this value lies below 25. For the people who are going to growing ages or aging people, it may increase. So with respect to the distance, this distance means less than 25 or greater than 25 if a person is able to see the object clearly. So there are three types of eye defects. Suppose if you see some persons, they are able to see the objects when they placed the object very near to the eye. Some persons able to see the object very far. Some may not be able to identify some curved objects. These are all said to be eye defects. These eye defects are classified based on this distance. Less than 25, one eye defect, greater than 25, another eye defect. So those eye defects are myopia, hypermetropia, presbyopia, like that, astigmatism, and like that. So what are these eye defects and how we can arrange the remedials for these eye defects? It will be like this. The first eye defect is myopia. The another name of myopia is nearsightedness. Yeah, what is the meaning of nearsightedness or myopia? It will be like this. Suppose if a person may able to see the object less than 25 centimeters, that means less than D, then he is suffering with myopia. So D is less than 25 centimeters. Maybe at 20 centimeters or maybe at 5 or 10, means he should place the object very close to the eye. So then he is suffering with myopia. So what is the reason for this? There is a problem in his eye lens. What is that problem? Suppose if this is the eye lens, just to draw, and it acts like a convex lens. Suppose if light rays are coming at different objects or at different positions, these light rays are converging just before the retina, in front of the retina. So for those where the light rays are converging in front of retina, this is advanced converging. This advanced converging leads them to a disease or eye defect called myopia. So what should we do? These are advanced converging. What is the remedial or how to remove this effect if a patient is suffering with this problem? So what are the remedials for this? So then we should use a biconcave lens. Then these light rays will scatter, diverge, and exactly falls on the retina screen. So this distance is very, very important. So they will find this distance. Mostly this will be some 2.27 to 2.5 centimeters. So with respect to this distance, they will arrange a suitable crystalline, suitable lens for the giving power. So the diagrams will be like this. So the light rays are converging in advance. On retina, in front of retina. So what we should do? We should arrange then it falls on the crystalline lens which is in convex, then they used to converge. So by using the biconcave lens, we can remove the defect of myopia. So this is one of the important features of this one. Next one is hypermetropia. So what is hypermetropia? Some persons may able to see the object greater than least distance of distinct vision, means they can able to observe the object, they can identify the object when the object are at a large distances, means more than 25 centimeters. If the object is very close to them, may not be able to identify. So this sight is called farsightedness. Then how you can remove, how you can overcome this defect? So what is the reason behind this hypermetropia eye defect like this? So what we can understand, the light rays which are emanating from the object, they are converging behind the retina. That is the reason behind this hypermetropia. So behind the retina, this is very important. So it is not advanced converging, it is late converging. So we should converge them advanced. So now we will see the gap between this. Optimist can find the distance. So with respect to distance, they will arrange one convex lens which is useful to converge the light rays just on the retina. So it will be like this. So in the path they used to arrange one convex lens. So like this, it falls on the retina's eye screen. This is also acts on the eye screen. Then they may able to fall on the eye retina. So here by using a biconvex lens we can overcome this problem. This is also one of the eye defect. So next one is astigmatism.